Yeah, it is another episode of the Auto Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. I'm a little raspy in the voice. Voice isn't great. Why? Because I was screaming. Because it is a done deal. Darren Waller has signed his contract, and he will be a Las Vegas Raider for the next 5 years. Drew Rosenhaus's new client signed a 3-year extension, $51 million in new money. This, of course, on top of the already 2 years that he's with the Raiders. So he's 30 years old, 5-year deal. We got him locked up for 5 years, Soto.
Yeah, from the outside looking in, it seems great. Like, yeah, we have him locked up for 5 years. We have to look at the particulars, right?
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, I don't know, and I don't think that it's going to be 5 guaranteed years. These next 2 for sure, because it's an extension past his next 2. But I'm thinking like maybe one of those 3 years is fully guaranteed with a couple of void years on the end. I don't know that these 2 years are going to change too much. I think more so maybe some bonus money thrown in these next 2 years that he was already contracted for at such a low rate. But yeah, man, I mean, I'm super excited. I have some other things to talk about as far as the contract and stuff, Drew Rosenhaus, but as right now, I'm super excited it got done.
Yeah, all the good part of this is now the Raiders have locked up for the foreseeable future Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow, Maxx Crosby, Davante Adams, Darren Waller. I mean, there are 4 Pro Bowl offensive players and a Pro Bowl defensive end all locked up for the foreseeable future. So this, of course, coming from Adam Schefter just moments ago, that Darren Waller is tied to the Raiders for the next 5 years. So this is awesome for the Raiders. And like you said, it shouldn't affect the cap really at all, probably the next year or 2, because it's an extension on top of the 2 years already. So we should still have money laying around to maybe get another right tackle or whatever we got to do this season or next. So it shouldn't put us any cap trouble this season.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, like I said, it's going to be bonus money that doesn't hit your cap. We're cash rich right now. We're making money hand over fist as a team. So I see this being a win-win for all. I am a little bit concerned though. So Waller left clutch, and he went with Drew Rosenhaus. If anyone knows Drew Rosenhaus, they know that when Drew Rosenhaus has elite level talent at a position, they're market setters, especially in a situation like Darren Waller, where he's severely underpaid, severely outperforming his contract, and he's getting, things are building in Vegas. It's if it was like a crappy franchise, like it may be a little bit different, but this is a franchise on the uptick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Normally, a Rosenhaus client would be a market setter in with the contract. The way it shakes out now, he's got about 14 million left. Waller does these next 2 seasons, plus the 51, so that's 65 for 5 years. That's 13 million a year. That's less than Njoku signed for. That's less than Andrew signed for. That's less than a lot of guys signed for per year. So what does that tell you about what the Raiders feel about Waller moving forward long term? He's 30. He doesn't have a lot of miles on him, but he's 30, coming off an injury. I don't like bringing it up, but he does have some substance abuse issues in his past. Like, what does that say about what they feel at 13 a year for 5 years?
It could be that, but it could also be the trend that's going on with the Raiders. Like Derek Carr took a team-friendly deal because he wants to be with the Raiders. Hunter Renfrow's deal, nothing crazy for like a Pro Bowler of that caliber. Mm-hmm. Maxx Crosby got paid, but it wasn't a position-shaking contract, right? Like, I think Waller's contract. Yeah, it was like, for the market, but it could have been, it could have played hardball. It could have been worse. So I think, and again, I was saying forever that, players don't take team-friendly deals. Like, they just don't do it.
Just got 4 in a row that did it.
The Raiders are starting to be that because of that, how good that locker room is and how well they're doing. And also leverage too. Like, the Raiders had him locked up for 2 seasons. Like, that's it. And Waller wasn't going to be doing a lockout. Like, he just wasn't going to do it. So that was the level. Like, and Ziegler and company They had leverage. Yes, excellent.
Excellent.
They had leverage over Waller, right? Like it wasn't like the last year of his contract. You know what I mean? They had 2 years on him, and he wanted to be there, and he wasn't gonna not show up. So okay, like they've got their leverage. There's no feelings in NFL negotiations. There's no well, we really like you, so we're gonna give you more. It's like no, you are a commodity, and we are a business, and that's how we're going to treat it. And the Raiders got a screaming deal. Again, the details are still going to come out. How much is guaranteed? All this stuff. But as of now, on the surface level, it's a screaming deal for the Raiders.
Yeah, well, it's Silver Wind writes, Drew said this was one of the most challenging negotiations he's encountered. I read this too on Twitter. What is your take on that? RJ, what is your take on that, my good sir?
Exactly what I just said. The Raiders had all the leverage here. All the leverage. Like it's super rare. And it was mentioned, I think, in the Rosenhaus tweet or the Schefter tweet. It's like, yeah, how often does a 30-year-old with 2 years left on his deal, coming off of an injury, get an extension? Not often. Not often. So, I mean, I think the Raiders are committed to Waller. Waller was committed to the Raiders, but the Raiders had all the cards. And Rosenhaus had to deal with that. You had to deal with that. It's like, all right, if the Raiders just said, no, we're not doing anything, what was their recourse? Waller was still going to show up tomorrow to play the Chargers, and that was it. So the Raiders held all the cards here, and Rosenhaus was kind of stuck with like, all right, what do I do in a negotiation where I have no leverage?
Yeah, I think it was a smart move by Waller going with Rosenhaus, because Rosenhaus is a guy that's going to get a deal done. And he knows, like you said, he knows leverage. He knows when he has when he has the best cards. He knows how to kind of lean on franchise to get the most, milk the very most, get the very best deal for his client. But like you said, he wasn't in a very enviable position in this one. He's coming in late after negotiations were already started with Clutch. There may already been some feelings back and forth between the Raiders and whoever Waller's representation was, so that he's kind of having to overcome that. He's having to overcome the fact that Waller flat out has said, I do not want to hold out. Yeah. And I think with the feeling of temperature of the room, I think that Clutch was maybe a heavier holdout type, whereas Rosenhaus is more of a negotiation type guy. Like, look, we can negotiate this, stay at the table. That's why, like, I never understood, like, when someone wants to buy a car and they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to leave. You're not going to give me the right deal. Like, no, they want to sell you the car. Just stay there and keep talking long enough. You're going to get a better deal. Mm-hmm. Even if they say, oh, well, that's the final offer. Yeah, I'm sure. Like, that's what you say. But how about this? And they'll keep going. And that's the Rosenhaus type. Like, he's going to keep negotiating and chipping and negotiating and trying to get the best deal. I don't know that Clutch was like that. It seemed to me that may have been an issue with Waller had with Clutch. But yeah, going with Rosenhaus was a smart deal for him because he was able to get the deal done.
And like I was saying, all the last like 2 weeks when this whole thing was going on is you can be creative if you've got a talented GM and a talented agent, right? Like you can, and again, we'll find out what the specifics are, but I can imagine there's some incentives. I can imagine the Raiders, this isn't all guaranteed money, right? That first number is never all the guaranteed money. It's $51 million. We'll find out what the guarantees are. And the Raiders aren't going to get stuck with, he'll be 35 at the end of this contract. So the Raiders aren't going to get stuck with the guy who maybe he's going to start, get a little older there in a position and a guy where his athleticism is a big part of what makes him so special, being so fast and being the athlete that he is at the position that he's at. So I think that's why it was so tough on Rosenhaus. Is just like, all right, let's dig into my bag of tricks. How can we it's not just money, right? It's not just I want 80 and you want to give me 40, right? It's like, how can we add some money in this time? Let's add some void years. Let's add some incentives. Let's add this protection, maybe no trade clause or whatever, right? Like you start bringing up more things than just simply your salary.
Yeah, and that's true. Rosenhaus. He's gonna fight and chip away, like I said, chip. Throw in a million here, a million there. Well, let's do this, and so got this, and well, let's just try this. Look at that. And I'm thinking that he's going to get close to a 4 or 5 bonus million in some way, bonus plus incentives type of thing these next 2 years to get him towards that 13-ish around there. But those last couple of years, I think are going to be garbage. If I had to place a bet, I would say the first year of that 3-year extension is fully guaranteed. The last 2 are non-guaranteed, full out, no money owed on those last 2 years. That's what if I had to bet.
Well, and he had zero money on guaranteed money on his current deal, right? The next 2 years, zero guaranteed money. So if he broke his leg tomorrow in LA against the Chargers, he's fucked, right? So he's got that guarantee, whatever the guaranteed money will be. It's a number. He's got that safety net. And I think that's kind of what made him happy because, again, Waller wasn't going to hold out, but it's like we talked about. If he has a little bit of a hammy issue and he's 50-50 on the fence, maybe he's not going to show up because he doesn't have a contract, right? Not technically a holdout, but he's still a human being, and there's still gray areas. And that's the biggest thing for me is that I wasn't until I see the details of the contract. I wasn't really that happy. I was like, he's got 2 years. Like, wait till next year, then we'll sign him. Then we'll worry about it then. But if he really wasn't happy and it was affecting the locker room, his mood, whatever, and this is what keeps him happy. And the contract, like you may have said, it's avoidable years. We're not on the hook for $51 million completely. Then it's a good thing. And it's a day to be celebrated here in Silver and Black.
Dude, that's got to show you. I mean, a little aside here. The way I'm thinking is, how bad does this look on Clutch when Rosenhaus comes in a fucking week and hammers out a fucking deal?
Yeah. Less than a week.
God
Less
damn.
than a week. It's like
Clutch
4 days.
Better be clutching their butt cheeks because if they have some guys that are like maybe this negotiation taking on a little long, maybe I'll go with Drew because this is not a good look on Clutch right now.
Not a good look on Clutch, and like you meant, I wonder what this how this looks on Rosenhaus, considering you've got a Pro Bowl tight end, at worst a top 3 pass catching tight end, and he's got. Is it like he's barely top 10 money for tight ends? He's out of the top 5.
He's not in the top 5.
Great for the Raiders.
Rich Vital, first off, you will always be Dick Vital to me. So change that shit right back. Rich Vital, you ain't fooling anybody. He writes, I think you will see more upfront bonuses to cover the players, hookers, and gambling. I agree. Got to cut those hookers cost money. Gambling costs money.
Yeah. The hookers, I don't think will take a like an IOU, but casinos, you can be like, hey, look, I got like a $51 million contract and it's guaranteed next season. Like, give me a money line, and they will. Like, the smart hookers should.
We're leaving. I got a marker coming. Fucking Joe Pesci. Leaving. I got a marker coming.
Vic Tabor, The Athletic, writes, this is from Josh, a statement from Josh McDaniels. Darren Waller is an exemplary teammate, and we're excited to see him continue to grow as a leader. He brings a tremendous commitment and work ethic to the building every day, and we couldn't be more thrilled that he'll be a part of the Raiders family for years to come. And that's and as I continue to bring up the balance, the petri dish that is the quality locker room that is the Raiders, you don't want to mess with it. Like,
no,
it's going to handle it. Like, it's going to have its own challenges that you don't want to add artificial challenges on top of it, right? Like, the Raiders may have a tough loss. The Raiders may have a hard injury. All the shit that happened last season, right? That only made the locker room stronger. Like, that can be a thing, right? That locker room needs to be able to handle that. You don't want to add something else like a beloved teammate, superstar, was your best offensive weapon for a while, having him maybe be unhappy.
Yeah, you pay your best players. You pay your best in any situation, in any industry. You're going to have the best, you're going to have good, okay, and you're going to have people that can come in and out. Your best players, your best people, you pay and you keep. That's what you want to do. Any industry you have. I work in an industry right now, manufacturing industry, and we have a ton of turnover. But guess what? The very best, we keep and we pay because we know the other people could just come in and out and they'll be taught and they'll learn from the best. But yeah, you don't want your best leaving for sure. Now, those best have to be also the best around the league. You can't just, if you're a shit team you can't just pay the best that's on your squad if they're not the best as a part of the league goes. You can let those guys walk, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, if you have one of the best in the league, yeah, you keep those guys. And I'm talking about on and off the field.
So breaking news from Adam Schefter, Pro Bowl tight end Darren Waller. The Raiders reached agreement today. 3-year contract extension, $51 million in new money on top of the 2-year deal that he already had currently. We'll get the details and the specifics.
Cat fight.
Oh. Raiders news and a fight. The fight's tonight. So I'm in Las Vegas right now for UFC 279. It was the most anarchy in the last 48 hours I've ever seen in UFC history. The way main event got switched, co-main event got switched, fight at the press conference. The main event was supposed to be Nate Diaz, Khamzat Chimaev. Co-main event was going to be Kevin Holland and D-Rod. And now it's going to be the main event, Tony Ferguson, Nate Diaz, because Chimaev missed weight. And now Chimaev is going to fight Kevin Holland. Him and Kevin Holland literally got in a fight at the press conference on Thursday. They canceled the whole press conference because of the melee that was in the back. And now they've just completely switched around the entire card. It's going to be so crazy tonight.
Dude, I loved who was better than Nate Diaz at selling a fucking fight in 30 seconds or less. I don't think anybody.
He's a walking soundbite.
He's like, dude, yeah, I should have fought Tony Ferguson a long time ago, but you know, bitch ass Khabib was afraid of him and never fought him. Just like this bitch ass is afraid of me. He's like, we punked him in the back, and now he forgets how to fucking make weight. Oh, so good.
So sweet. All right, crazy weekend. It's about to get crazier. We've got week 1, Raiders Chargers, the rematch of that incredible week 18 matchup from last season that propelled us, the Raiders, to the playoffs and sent the extremely talented but always shooting themselves in the dick Los Angeles Chargers on their sofas during the playoffs. We'll get that game tomorrow. We'll do a post-game show immediately following. And until then, knock on wood if you're with me.